Hey, Weekly Walk viewers, greetings from Seattle, where Kristin and I are hanging out. I'm like, we have to move our heads. There's a Space Needle right there. Yours is the right way up. I'm sideways with the Space Needle. So, but the sun is shining. Beautiful day here in Seattle. No, I have to say though, I did take this photo. So these are my photography skills at work. So Kristin, it's great to see you. And for those of you who don't know, Kristin Graham is the principal of culture and comms at Amazon. So that's why we're in Seattle today. So how are you?
I'm really, really good.
Good.
Even though I have things coming out of my head.
We got a lot of things. It's working. I think it's working for us.
It's my accessories. Yes.
Exactly. All women need their accessories. So, all right. I would love to know I have my 3 questions for you, but before we even get to those, I would love to know what culture and comms at Amazon entails, because I can only imagine given the size of that company.
Oh, goodness. That is a much longer question. And I have to say, it is not one person or one department. There are many
lots of people,
ambassadors and strategists of comms and culture across Amazon. So this is just one baby voice in the larger universe of it. But I do get to look after some of the things that and produce material and support people who do it, who help explain and highlight and amplify the really, we call it peculiar aspects of Amazon's culture.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Very cool. Yeah, I can imagine there's a lot of it there too. So, on that note, my first question is really basic, but what is culture? I feel like so many people and companies throw that term around. We have a good culture. We're all about culture, but nobody's ever really defining it. And you've had a career that's very much centered around this term. So I would love to know, sort of in your opinion and through your career, what makes a good culture and what is culture?
It's a super fair question. And so this is not academic. This is Kristin's free opinion.
Yes, Kristin's opinion.
So on that, let me start by telling you what it's not. Culture is not a poster that is in the hallways of when that was still a thing.
We used to do that.
It's not your mission and values. It certainly has some aspects of that, but I think a lot of companies put so much energy into wordsmithing what they would say is their mission or their values. It's really around, and a lot of where people used to describe it, especially in the evolving global element, is it's what you would hire and fire over. It's really the standards. And so I'm talking about corporate culture, understandably, but there's also, we all have culture in our family units, in our partnerships, and it really is that element. You can say, hey, this is gonna be my culture in my family or in my workplace, but if it's not something that you really put your actions against, then it is just a poster. I used to joke that even Enron had inscribed in marble in their lobby their values, and one of them was integrity. So what I would say now that I've done what it's not, especially in today's times, I would say it is your daily dialogue. It is how you show up. It is the conversations you have. It's the space that you allow to listen, and it's how people receive you.
Love that. Well, yeah, and by knowing what it's not, I feel like that will help a lot of people figuring out what their culture is or should be as they try to figure that out, especially in these remote times. So,
too, so many companies on that note, though, they focus so much on what they want it to say and what they want it to mean, but culture is a reflection of how well you listen. And I think that's a guidepost right now for a lot of companies. It's the space that you create for others to be heard.
So kind of on that note, and sort of on companies who are trying to figure this out, at OpenView, we spend all of our time primarily talking with early stage companies. And in a lot of cases, they don't always have somebody who's specifically focused on people or culture, outside of maybe their CEO or their COO. Outside of hiring somebody specifically for that, how can existing leadership teams start building a killer employee experience? What I'm sure there's lots of steps, but what would step 1 be of that?
Well, so I think what I want to say first is that culture belongs to everyone. I've always said in my communication practice, communications isn't a department. It's everybody's responsibility. And I do appreciate that it gets set from the top. So understanding that, to your question, because not everybody can have all the resources of an Amazon, and that daily dialogue is how it lives and breathes. It is your company DNA. So from a employee experience, which is my big passion. I think you have to start before they start. One of the things that I've learned, especially in the last year, but certainly in the last 6 months, is a lot of companies will focus on onboarding, which is very important.
Yep.
I think there's going to be a big shift to pre-boarding.
Okay. Interesting.
So
what is that?
Preboarding is quite literally the space between when you are hired, you have the offer, and you start. Depending on where you are in the world, that's different time spans, and it could even just be a day, truly. But that's where you get hooked into hearts and minds. It's when employees are most engaged, and engagement used to be the word that culture was called. I think that we all try on different terms. It's you're never more excited. You've told people what you're going. They are your best ambassador. Most companies, especially tech companies, receive about 25% of all of their hires from referrals. So you're not just bringing in an individual, you've probably got a connection to, if not your current employees, your future employees, because those new employees will hire others. So how they get treated coming in your door, think of it as your virtual welcome mat. And so it can be, so at Amazon, we're making big steps forward in sending out culture material before you even start. We find that it helps with the onboarding. You ramp up quicker, there's efficiency, but also in these times where people are being hired and onboarded and driving results without ever seeing in person their manager, team members, stakeholders, having that, they're hungry for what they can do in advance. I don't mean give them work, don't misunderstand. Like calm yourself. We all know you're excited for headcount. It is, so at Amazon, we have 14 leadership principles. That's a big poster.
So, and just a couple posters, I think.
But within that space, because it does take a while to absorb them, it's part of our daily conversations, as I said earlier, the daily dialogue. But that's something that we provide. They're public information, and we provide them out to our pre-hires as they're coming on board so that they can get used to them. So then they walk in and hear them in conversations, they're already feeling connected to that material. That's just one example.
Got it. That makes sense. Preboarding.
Step one.
The future of onboarding.
The future of onboarding.
Preboarding.
You heard it here first.
I know, Kristin, 2020, here we go. All right, and my last question for you is a little birdie, AKA LinkedIn, told me that you have loved storytelling since you created your first diorama in a shoebox in elementary school. And I would love to know what that diorama was of, and do you still own that? And use it as your daily inspiration.
I think you are the only one who's read that section on my LinkedIn profile.
I love LinkedIn, full transparency.
Oh, heart LinkedIn. I'm a huge nerd on there, as you already know.
Yes.
But I'm telling you though, Casey, I don't think my mother remembers I did this diorama. She'd be like, what? That wasn't the start of your communication career. So what was funny about it, I actually had to go back up and remember like what was a diorama. So it's a shoebox, right? This was elementary school. So this wasn't science fair quality. So it was a shoebox. And I remember having the two pencils where then you twisted them. So first, this was the original streaming channel. I don't want to get too ahead of myself. And so then you peeked in and then you twisted the thing. It was probably a science assignment, but here's the thing you got to know about Kristin. I will go out of my way to avoid the basics. I will over creative just to avoid doing the actual work. So I'm sure it was something about science and I just made it a lot of pretty pictures. It's my element of creative glitter. So I probably was like jazz hands on my science project, and but I remember it.
You remember it, and here you are, however many years later. So I'd say that it worked.
Not part of preboarding.
Not part of preboarding, but hey, who knows? For all the kids out there watching, those dioramas could be the future career.
Activities.
Yeah, I don't know if they still do those in 2020. I don't know if they still do those in 2020. Have they moved to tech?
They probably do their own YouTube channel.
Exactly. They've come a little bit further. So
what am I talking about? Yes.
So anyway, awesome. Well, Kristin, thank you so much for being here and talking all things culture and preboarding and dioramas, most importantly. And we will see y'all soon. Bye, guys.